to Epic Sage is where your journey begins. Our shelves are stacked high where the magic never ends. From dice that roll true to tomes ancient and wise, we've got all the essentials for your game to arise. With adventure in mind, we craft every piece to make your campaigns flourish, your stories increase. For every TTRPG dream, our stock is refined. Come find your next quest, leave the mundane behind.
Epic Stages, where you find satisfaction. We bring the spark, you bring the passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Stages, where legends find traction.
Our online store's a wonderland, easy to explore, with service that shines whether in person or more. Need advice on your journey? We're here to assist. For novice and veteran, no wish will be missed. We've got what you need from the basic to the grand, to bring your world to life with a masterful hand. From maps that expand to characters that bind, Epic Sages, always with adventure in mind.
Epic Stages is where you find satisfaction. We bring the spark, you bring the passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Stages, where legends find traction.
Elevate your game with custom pieces so fine, handcrafted with care, designed to make you shine. From miniature heroes to landscapes vast, we build every detail to make the magic last. When the final dice is rolled and the journey is done, we offer keepsakes that remind you of the battles you won. In every treasure we offer, memories are signed. Epic Sages, always with adventure in mind.
Epic Stages is where you find satisfaction. We bring the spark, you bring the passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Stages, where legends find traction. Epic Stages is where you find satisfaction. We bring the spark, you bring the passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Stages, where legends find traction.
Bada boom, bada bing. Welcome to episode 5.4. Sorry, session 5.4, 5-4, if I could speak. Anyway, new problems, or new age, old problems. AI is the simple solution to all these things, right? That's our title. That's what we're talking about. If I could just read things off my title screen there, it would be all right. But I can't, so we're going to just introduce our wonderful guests that are here tonight. We are joined by 3 wonderful star guests. 2 of them from the same place, from the same fam, from the same comp. Both Greg and Greg sharing a name. For simplicity's sake, throughout the night, one will be referred to as Greg and one will be referred to as Wood, just to make life simple. And last but not least, we got Stacy. So our 3 people are going to give their introduction. We're going to start with ladies first and have Stacy give her intro, where she's from, what she does, all that cool stuff, and where you can find her, and then we'll go on to the Gregs.
All right, I'm Stacy Cavin. I'm a CPA outside of St. Louis, Missouri, and you can find me on Facebook and on LinkedIn.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy. What's for your CPA stuff? What's the name of the website?
So cavincpa.com for the website, and it's Cavin CPAs and Advisors.
Fantastic. All right, Greg and Greg, who would like to go first?
I nominate Wood.
He wasn't.
All right.
He was muted, so he didn't have a chance to argue. Wow. Go ahead, Wood.
You got me there. Yeah, I am one of the 2 Gregs. Last name Wood, going by Wood in general, just to try to avoid some confusion. My past career has been a corporate finance and strategy guy. I'd say maybe I'm reformed from that, and now I live in the Central Coast of California, and have been working on Archivist with the other Greg for a handful of months now. I guess about half a year, maybe a little more. And loving it. You can find us at rpgarchivist.io.
Fantastic. Greg.
Other Greg. Yes.
Greg.
I'm also.
I don't like to refer to people as other someone's in there. That's rude. You're also Greg.
Yeah, we've been trying to sort this out for like a year at this point. I'm Greg Harezlak. I don't even know how to talk about my background. I also was working in the tech industry for a long time. Spent some time at like Twitter when it was Twitter and Facebook when it was Facebook, and just recently spent a few years working in venture capital, mostly on like data platform stuff. And now I'm full-time headlong into building Archivist with my wonderful co-founder. And he already plugged the URL, so I'm not even going to do that.
Hey, double it up. Now, before we get too far, we talk about Archivist lovingly on our show relatively regularly, but I don't think we've officially explained it as per your guys' request. Can you guys give the simple pimple explanation of what it does?
You want me to do it or you to do it?
No, go for it.
Oh man, I really should have an elevator pitch at this point. So Archivist is essentially it's an AI platform. The core principle behind it is we want to leverage AI in a responsible and ethical way to enhance the TTRPG experience. I played around with a ton of different products and models and other stuff out there and seen what can help and what can't, and honestly what AI is good at and what it's not. We're purely focused on the things that AI is really good at, and B doesn't encroach on the realm of human creativity, which actually is what makes TTRPGs special, in our opinion. So what Archivist does is we keep chronicles of all of your sessions. We take all of the headaches out of note taking off your plate. So we'll generate summaries. We'll keep transcripts of the sessions. We do like entity extraction, which is a fancy way to say we sort of tag and extract all of the characters, factions, and locations that you talk about, whether they're planned or improv. And then we create like a chatbot, for the lack of a better term, for your campaign data specifically. So if you need to recall that random NPC that you named on the fly a couple of weeks ago and you can't remember, you just ask Archivist and Archivist will tell you. And we've got a lot more on the horizon, but that's the way too long elevator pitch.
We'll get it down to 30 seconds for you one of these days. That's good though. It explains everything simple pimple. But as someone who's used it, I've been singing its praises, and since we knew you guys were coming in, this made it a perfect episode to be an AI focused episode. So good timing on your part. You can thank Younger for the most part. And we'll get into it. So that's pretty simple transition into what we're talking about tonight, right? Is the AI solution to simple stuff, right? As business owners and people that are creating things, AI is going to be a large part of our lives, right? This is a pill we are all going to have to swallow one way or another, whether it's a good pill or a bad pill or whatever you want to do, right? Because with AI, as we all know, there are some dangers of it being a soulless monster that just makes things that kind of goofy, right? But it also still has the possibility to make things better while still having some soul to it, right? Still having some people behind it, some thought, all that fun stuff. So, as my favorite question to start with, when I say new age, new problems, what's the first thing that pops into your head? We're going to start with Wood this time.
I thought I was muted. My bad.
You're
I
good.
wasn't on mute, and then I muted myself when I started talking, so I apologize. When I think about new age, new problems, in the context of AI, I suppose, I think in this world that we're living in, and maybe this is getting too granular to what you're actually intending here, but I think one of the new problem that we're all facing, whether it's in TTRPGs or just with AI becoming more prevalent everywhere, is the risk of being inaccurate and taking the AI output as fact and as just the sole truth. If I was to bring it back to the TTRPG space, when things get hallucinated or connections get made that don't exist, that's very frustrating as a user. But if you think about asking, say, a common ChatGPT question about law or let's say accounting practice, Stacey, I'm sure you can speak on that. And if it gives you something that's incorrect or maybe glosses over the actual nuance and the crux of a certain issue, that's a real problem that can get people in a lot of trouble. So I think that certainly is a new problem. What in theory could be some simple stuff.
Okay, all right, I like that.
Yeah.
Greg, jumping over to you, same question, new age, same problem. What pops into your head?
Is it new age same problem or new age different problem?
New age, same problem.
New age same problem.
I might have said
Okay,
it wrong the first
that's
time, and if
fair.
I did, I apologize.
No, that's totally fair. Okay, so I guess I'll slightly tweak my position then. Again, within the context of AI,
Okay.
I think one of the biggest challenges, which is still a historical challenge, is that, and like with the adoption of any new technology, there's going to be this. Well, there already has been this sort of like step change in terms of like people's productivity and in terms of the sort of like on ramp for like very complex things that they can do. And I think whenever any new piece of technology has been invented that's that powerful, there's been like a really, really frictionful transition into that. And I think we're seeing a lot of that right now. One of the like most kind of difficult to kind of traverse and navigate topics around AI are things like how do you sort of rely on it for things that involve creativity? And I think artists especially have had a lot of like really difficult conversations around like, I've built my career around this, and now you've got people going to like Dolly and Midjourney and all these other places, and people feel satisfied putting a prompt in and getting an image out 30 seconds later, which is something that would have taken me hours or whatever it is. And like I said, it's an old problem because we've kind of seen this happen before, and it's kind of like when artists were like way back in the day when like Disney and everybody were starting to animate sort of like movies. They were drawing individual cells, and they were had to do it one at a time. And today we have like Wacom tablets and like all kinds of other stuff that's happening. And so I think what we're now seeing is just this like exponentially sort of like difficult to kind of process uh, change and how people are going to be productive. But yeah, I think navigating that, we still haven't gotten there. Wood and I talk extensively about it all the time, but I think that's going to be something interesting that comes out of it.
Okay. I mean, that's a great thing to talk about. I'll kind of touch on that later. Stacy, your turn. New age, same problem.
I think it really comes down to looking at it from, the AI perspective. Can we cuss? On it.
Oh yeah, no, you're good. This is meant for adults. You're good to go.
So, okay. So there's a saying in accounting that people use it: shit in, shit out. So you're going to have your prompts. You've got to ask it for what you want. And that's always been the case. So speaking to the tax and accounting research, when you research, if you find an answer and you stop searching, whether it's found in a book or if you're searching through a database or you're asking AI, you might not get the right answer, or you might not get the full answer for your situation. And so that's new age is now we've got to feed AI the prompts, ask the right questions. So if you don't know all the right questions, or you don't keep going and dig deep enough, you're not going to get the right output, and it's going to be shit out. So it's been the same. It's just in a different format these days.
Excel spreadsheets are still evil, regardless of who's using them, right?
I love them.
Which is clutched his pearls.
Oh, spreadsheets, my lifeblood.
Okay, so now that I kind of got an idea of where you guys' heads are at, right? The first thing you guys think of when I say the title, we're gonna jump to specifically. Do you guys want to start with a positive note or a negative note?
Let's go negative.
Dude, I was going to say negative, then we can save the fun thing at the end, I guess.
Fun thing.
Okay, that works.
Okay, so starting with the negative thing, right? So we're going to start with Greg, right? You're in the center. You haven't started a question yet. Wahaha. So Greg, when you are working with your AI, right, as you're training it up and doing things, when is the most common issue that you find with yours? What is the thing that it always does as an AI that just messes things up all the time?
Oh my goodness. Where do we start? Well, first of all, Stacy kind of nailed it. In that I think the thing that makes AI really, really powerful, and also the thing that makes it really, really difficult to work with, is it's a probabilistic technology. So you can put in I don't want to go too deep into that, but like essentially a probabilistic thing, you put the same inputs in and you're going to get different inputs out. And that's how the model's designed. It's designed to give you variance and range and all this other stuff. And with deterministic solutions, things like querying a database, you put in the same inputs, you get the same outputs every time. And so that's great, but it's inflexible. It's because there's not this like broad spectrum of applications for it. So what I'm getting at is like the biggest problem with this model, no matter how much I yell at it to do certain things or not do certain things, sometimes it has biases. Sometimes it has things that are like hard coded into the weights of the model that I can't do anything about. Like stop using the word camaraderie. I have never had such a disdain, such a searing disdain for a single word in the English language because GPT-4o Mini does not stop using it. And it's things like that where like no matter how clear of instructions you give it, no matter how sort of comprehensive you feel like the context you give the model, it's never going to be exactly predictable every time. And so much of it is art and experimentation as much as it is science. And so it's maddening oftentimes.
Okay, that's fair. So you talked about the probabilisticness of the thing. I totally mispronounced that, but we're gonna just keep moving on. One of my favorite examples of this on AI that you can see relatively easily is a website called Night Cafe. Right, it's kind of like an image board making thing, right? And you can tell it how many images you want to make with the exact same prompt and how close to the prompt you want it to be and all that fun stuff. And you can have wildly different images with the exact same prompt, right? You can specifically have it be like, hey, I want my images to be very different for each other or very similar or whatever, but they are still all going to be something unique amongst themselves. And you can do a prompt 100 times and you're probably only going to have a handful of images. You're like, I can't tell the difference between those two, right? Which I think is a cool example of it. The other one is a great example of a new AI site that I really have fallen in love with is called Suno. Right, it's a music making one, and every time you plug a song into Suno, it comes up with two. Right, you always get to hear two versions. Right, there's never you just get one, for the exception of when you edit stuff and are like or have it fix something. Right, but I think that's kind of fun. And just as an example from my end here, jumping over to Stacy. Stacy, back on our negativity train over here. When you're dealing with your clients and people, right? What is a common problem you have with people or clients? Without naming any names or griping at people directly, what is something that, like, if something's going to go wrong, it's going to be this? What's that for you?
Outside of AI, just with people,
Yeah.
the biggest problem is getting the information that we need. I'd say that's number one, communication when it comes to people.
Okay, so communication with people, right? So that's two things on communication. I'm going to jump over to Wood. When you're working on your side of Archivist, what is your biggest thing that just stumps every, like, if you know something's going to go wrong, what's it going to be?
Because Greg already took the word camaraderie, although he has a burning passion hatred for that more than I do. The thing I've been working on most recently in the back end is trying to solve the entity extraction that Greg alluded to, which is you're telling your story in a TTRPG setting. You're talking about characters, factions, locations. You could add in events and items and other categories as well. And given that context to a model, you feed the model that context and some static descriptions of what those, or sorry, definitions of what those things are. You get wildly different output with inconsistent results, and that is very frustrating. If you can imagine what we're trying to build is something that is consistent and reliably catalogs your story, if the output, even though the input is identical, the output is different and maybe misses a character one time, or thinks that the same character is really two characters, or maybe it's a faction in one classification and a location in a different classification, a different run. So that's frustrating.
I could see it be there. I had someone who's been with the model for a bit. I've seen it. I know what you're talking about exactly. But I got you. Okay. So negative side of stuff. When we are interacting with our peeps, right? Our systems that we play with, right? Stacy, I'm gonna throw you more at the people side of things because I assume you don't use AI as much with your CPA stuff.
Not true, but
No, okay. So
yeah.
then I will throw the question about AI when you're using your CPA stuff, or when you're dealing it on that context with the computer side of things. What's gonna mess up for you every single time, or something that you always got to back check after you use it, kind of thing.
Well, anything that I ask, so I will use AI. I use it all day, and I use it as a way to quickly find the data points to go and search for the right things, because I would sit in databases for hours trying to find the code section that I needed so I could go read it. Now I can go into Chat GTP and say, hey, there's a thing, tell me what code section, and now I can take that and go directly to the source. So it speeds up my research time a ton, but sometimes they're not quite accurate. I have to go back and I have to say, okay, that one's not the one I meant, and I have to give it more prompts, right? So there's that. And then there's the side that I'm a CPA. Marketing isn't my forte. So when I'm doing social media posts or any type of marketing, I use it and it gets so frustrated because I will say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. And they're like, great, here's a sample. I'm like, perfect. Do 10 posts like that. And it'll do exactly what it told me not to do. I'm like, can you redo that the way you told me to do it? So it doesn't keep consistent all the time, and it takes time to reiterate and get the right result.
Gotcha. Okay. So kind of with all of your experiences, I'm going to ask the same question. Have you all answered individually? Is there a limit with how bad things can go with your AI projects? Is there something where like it can only mess up so much? We'll start with Wood this time.
Uh, let me make sure I understand the question. You're
Sure.
saying, is there like a bottom? Is there a floor to how bad it could get?
Yes.
Okay. Yes and no, which sadly I find myself answering a lot of questions like that. And the reason I say yes and no is because it has to do with the perspective of the user. So in our world, we're creating a package for users to share their story and we upload their story. It's their session, it's their data, and some folks are going to have a great understanding of the capabilities of AI, and also the inner workings of some of the back end that we do, which is effectively we need to convert speech into text, so a speech to text service, and that data can be have limited quality. So some folks might understand that and understand there's some natural limitations to speech to text services as they stand now, and also there's model capabilities as they exist now. And those people are generally really happy with the output. Others don't quite understand or can maybe not quite understand and expect it to be solving every problem for them and just know all of the nuance and maybe something wasn't even said. One thing that Greg and I will often talk about when we're chatting is if a courtroom stenographer was sitting in the room listening to your session, could they understand what was actually happening? Or was there just so much crosstalk happening and BSing on the side, people talking over each other, like even if they wouldn't have any idea? So I think part of that context really helps and matters. So anyway, it's in the eye of the perspective of the users of how bad it really could be, because to person A or the first use case, they're going to love it and it's really not going to be that bad because it's doing a lot of things for them. Person B might think it's awful, it's unusable because it gets facts wrong, even though it might have actually not even had the fact to begin with.
Interesting. Okay. Jumping over to Greg here. Same question. Is there a floor to how bad it can mess up? That's it. I like the way that's phrased, so that's what we're gonna say.
Yeah. I think there's probably two cases that are worst for me. Yeah, because I mean, it all just breaks. It doesn't do anything. I guess that's terrible. But even that's kind of like a wash. I would say the two are, or like one is it's pure hallucination, like all the way down. Like for some reason, it just makes up everything because the way that these models are built and their entire purpose is to predict the next token, is to try and figure out based on the weights in the transformer, like what is the next thing you think you're going to say. So if it's really bad at that, it's just going to make up stuff because it's trying really hard to fulfill its existential imperative, which is to talk. So that's really horrible. I think the second case is where we're going to get into a lot of nuance, and like trust and safety is a huge thing with AI. And like you can, if you look at OpenAI, they have really extensive policies on it. So do Anthropic. Anybody who has a closed model has really extensive policies on that stuff. And a lot of that has to do with like, like harm and hate speech and however you kind of like want to qualify that. And it's a really kind of nuanced and subjective thing in the world of TTRPGs sometimes because you've got different audiences playing different settings with different levels of consent and going into sort of different pathways. And so like how do you kind of traverse that nuance if you're playing Vampire Masquerade or something wild and like some crazy stuff's going down? And like your players want that. They created that content. And so like you want Archivist to document it accurately and not sort of wash over it with this like kind of G-rated language. But on the other hand, you have, audiences and players who are the complete opposite end of that spectrum. And so screwing that up and not navigating that well can be, I think, disastrous on both ends. So those are the two things I think it could really screw up.
Gotcha. Okay. I have a follow up question to that, but I'll ask that in a second. Stacy, what about on your end? Right? How bad is bad for you?
Yeah, I mean, if I start using it and it's giving me incorrect things, I'm fact checking and it's giving me the wrong source codes or stats consistently and it's making my job take longer, I'm going to stop using it and I'm going to try to find something else, which I've played with different AI sources and I keep going back to ChatGTP because it's performing the best and it provides the best answers fastest. So, I mean, I haven't had any AI be just completely 100% wrong all the time. But there are definitely some that are better than others. And I remember back when we first had the phone go from voice to text, like I remember the first iterations of that way back, and they were almost unusable because you couldn't decipher. But then it got to where, okay, I can make this out. And now they're great, right? You only have a couple messed up words. So technology is just getting better. So
Okay, interesting. Um, so follow up with Greg. Do you ever think it'll come to a point where you can basically put a like PG rating on it essentially for groups and individuals? So you have the base source being the most open, and then let them pick more and more restrictive stuff.
Yeah, so there's a few different mechanisms like that that are already in play. Stable Diffusion, which is an open source image generation model, actually has like an NSFW kind of like gate on it. So it'll tell you, like based on the output of the image, whether or not the thing is, at least how they're considering it, NSFW, and you can toggle that on and off. Same thing for different modalities. So you can already kind of like, at least to whoever designed the policy or trained that particular model's interpretation of what that line is, you can draw it. Um, and then another solution is fine tuning, which Greg and I are getting into the depths of right now. I've played a little bit with it, but now we're getting super deep into it, where you can take open source models and you can fine tune them for very specific applications. And if they're open source, they don't necessarily have the same gates on them that these closed models do with like very extensive trust and safety policies. So you can train a model to essentially do what you need it to do. And so that could essentially be a setting in a campaign. It's like like what is appropriate, and we have multiple models that are running for those different.
Gotcha. Okay, interesting. Um, kind of jump into the next question. This one's kind of a fun one. So we're gonna start with Stacy. Stacy, how much time do you think AI saves you?
I've never really put hours to it, but definitely hours each day. I mean, just responding to emails and making them more friendly and personable when I'm tired. I mean, hours. I love it.
Okay, fantastic. I was gonna say my favorite thing about whenever I use it is it doesn't make spelling mistakes unless I tell it to, which is usually like names or locations. Uh,
Yeah.
Best thing about fantasy names is it never believes that they're real things until you're like, "That's a person. Stop correcting me. It's real." What jumping over to you? Same question. How much time is saved when you use your AI throughout your normal day? Or for you,
Yeah.
is it not saved at all because it is the source of your problems?
It is the source of my bliss in many ways. It's all good all the time. I will actually answer it in a slightly different way, in that AI for me enables me to do a whole lot more than I would otherwise be able to do. So I don't think about it as a time savings, but rather a multiplier for what I am able to do. And so I guess two sub examples of that. One, I will often get writer's block, and not that I'm a creative writer at all, but if I need to write an email or a complaint note or something, or whatever it is, I'm having an issue with my solar company, to remain nameless, but I will essentially, what I call it, just word vomit. Kind of, here's my take and what happened, and then I will feed that into a model and say, here's the context. Craft an email that is heading to company X, and with this tone, and boom, there it is. And granted, I'll generally try to edit and tweak it from there, but that happens quite quickly and efficiently, which I think is great. The other one, which has been profound lately, is AI's ability to just make a lot of things faster that I probably could do myself, but it would take me quite a bit longer. So that example is back in my my corporate career at finance and tech. There were people's whole jobs were effectively data stewards and managing databases, and then giving you information, and you would like send an email with here's the data that I need, and in these fields, and in this sort of nuance. And then you'd have meetings to talk about what are the slices and what are the views you want. Like, that was a whole thing. Now you could say that in natural normal language into GPT, describe your database and their relationships, and then it just spits you out SQL code, and then you have it. So, what would take quite literally hours and hours of meetings is now done in 10, 15 minutes. And then what's more, and I apologize for droning on a little bit on this one, but it's very top of mind, is there's now AI like coding tools. And so I'm also not going to name drop it either, but it's the kind of thing like I am not a software engineer, but I've been brute forcing some ways and using AI to help me correct some things and figure out ways to effectively write in Python, which I am not at all trained in and have essentially zero experience in, but I'm able to work through that and produce a product that is usable and scalable in the context of our space. So that's all enabled by AI, which is fantastic, and brute force a little bit and some gumption, but it's been awesome.
Okay, fantastic. I'll kind of come back to the personal learning on that one because I do have a follow up on that one. Greg, what about you?
Yeah, first of all, Woods being modest, he became like a natural language processing PhD like over the weekend, with having like never written a line of Python, which is wild. Anyway, but very much same vein. I'll try not to reiterate everything that Wood already said, but like for example, if I'm debugging or doing some other task that is just laborious and it's either copying pasting or it's like writing stuff, and I'll get there. I'm just a person, so it'll take me like 2 hours. AI can just do that for me. And it's something that I don't know if a lot of people think about it this way necessarily. I think a lot of people say, "Oh, it's supplanting sort of like human sort of application and things like that." And for me, it's like, no, it's just taking away the stuff that I'm perfectly capable of doing, but should offload to this thing because it's simple and just time consuming. So like that's a huge thing. And the other end of it is like we're doing full stack, software engineering, we're doing AI stuff. There's new packages, there's new sort of like updates to documentation, stuff's changing all the time. And if something breaks and I see an error, I could definitely spend another hour like, going online, going into the documentation for the new release and checking out all the new features and figuring out the ones that specifically apply to the thing that I'm trying to build. Or I can feed it into an AI model that's already read those docs, and it can just tell me, oh, it's this thing. And so trying to quantify the amount of time that it saved me is a fool's errand because it's yeah I can't even put words to it. It's nuts.
Yeah, I'm on that line with you for it does just amplify or multiply how fast I can do things. Like I'm capable of doing this, wouldn't be able to do it in 45 seconds. Great example recently in our Power Rangers game that we run. Did our Zord stuff. We finally got our big old monsters to be on the field, but we have a lot of Rangers. So I was like, you know what? What if we had these Zords be able to combo wombo with more than just the big one, right? That way, if people are missing or things like that, we can have cool other combinations to run around with, right? Or have multiple things running around to deal with multiple enemies. And so I took all of my information about all the Zords that I had and put it into a thing. I was like, hey, analyze this and turn it into a PDF to where it's readable and shows everything out. And it took 2 minutes, maybe. It took however long it took me to write all the answers out, like an hour comparatively. You know what I mean? Like that's a great. And then it was like, here's a link to a document. There you go. Okay, cool, nice. Looked at the document, could copy paste, so it's a nice little screenshot sent to my players. The whole process took me less than 10 minutes after everything was said and done, which was like, wow, that's great. I didn't even know it could do that. I was just seeing if it would work, and it did. So great example of that. Kind of to pack on something that Wood was talking about. How are you personally using AI to learn stuff? Right, as it has access to all the information we have, it also has the great ability to explain things like I'm a toddler. And I was wondering if anyone else takes advantage of that capability with it. Stacy's down her head, so we're gonna start with you, Stacy. What has AI been teaching you?
I've been using it to research a lot of different things. Like I did the prompt for making a schedule for myself. I'm also working on building out a software with a partner of mine and another company that I have. And I use it to research comparatives of other softwares. How do things work behind the scenes? Because I'm not a software person at all. And I've used it to build out my schedule to sort of get that done and integrated it with my schedule for my CPA firm. So, I mean, just random things from learning and researching how things work in a dumbed down level, especially when it comes to software and developer stuff that I know nothing about, and trying to, as simple as integrating it into my schedule. Like I use it all the time.
That's fantastic. I mean, I have another example on mine, but I'm going to get through Greg and Wood really quick. What about you guys? What are you currently using it to learn right now? Obviously, we heard Wood's using it to learn Python, which is fantastic because last time I checked its coding ability, I was like, it's got kitty coding down good. That's nice. So if it's better now, it's good to know. But starting with Wood, since we've already heard one of his answers, wahaha.
Yeah. The sad reality is lately I've been spending pretty much all my time doing that. Which I guess isn't sad because it actually brings me a lot of excitement and joy. But that is probably a fairly boring answer. The other slice of it that I'll just touch on really quick is it's learning how to code, but it's also like being refreshed on a couple of statistical methodologies that I had taken in college in like stats and stats too, but I'd never actually used in the real world, like ever. So that was fun to actually be reminded of those practices. And if I kind of forget some of those things, you can ask the follow-up question conversationally and get reminded. And then, hey, explain this to me like I forgot my college course content. And then you get like the distilled down version of what it all means. So that's been really fun to use. I think this isn't exactly what you asked, but also just other fun use cases are how AIs can work with each other to give high quality content. And so in kind of a silly examples of this, or you can feed it some context, say, of a TTRPG session, which I was doing certainly before we even started Archivist, of summaries and outputs. And I'd feed that context into a model and say, hey, write song lyrics for the adventuring party with, highlight a couple of these things. Take that, edit it a bit, and then throw it into literally Suno, which I absolutely love, and make Greg listen to a bunch of these songs when we do our biannual retreats. And have we have some fun with the output there. And the last little example I like to say is I have two kids. I've got a toddler who's almost 4, and then almost a 1.5-year-old. But the toddler is a big fan of image gen, and so he'll say the silliest words he can, put it together, pop it into an image model, and that is entertaining for toddlers for a long time. So big fan of that. So he's teaching me how to entertain a toddler in a new and interesting way.
That's a creative use for it. I might have to steal that idea for my 4-year-old or 7-year-old at this point. Side note with Suno, just to call out for our fun little channel here on Discord, we have a spot specifically for sharing Suno songs. So if you guys are needing to share because you've made an absolute banger, that's where to throw it.
Be careful what you wish for.
You understand? It's an obsession, and I love it. So we're gonna get along just fine. Greg, it's your turn. Wahaha! What are you learning right now from AI, or what are you having it help you relearn or teach or whatnot?
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't know Wood and I were in parallel doing the same thing with our kids. But like when my kid's in the bath at night now, like he likes to give me animals that he would like to see what it looked like if they were smushed together into a single animal. And so that's what we do. We go do that on Midjourney. But no, I learn best by like building stuff. I may surprise you, not do well in a structured classroom setting. So like always when I'm doing projects, when I'm building stuff, whether it's like robotics or software or whatever, like as I'm building things, those things become ingrained in me. AI has made that uh, a lot better, and especially with the very complex things that I'm trying to solve. Because for the most part, we use they have sort of different like striations or layers of models. Obviously, they've got smaller ones that are on like 8 billion parameters, and then they have ones that are just completely massive. And so the recent, not even recent, it's maybe like a year old at this point, but the recent tier of like reasoning models, like OpenAI is like O1, and then DeepSeek obviously came out with one that well, whatever, the jury's out. But the interesting thing that that model does is when I have like a really hard problem and like the regular AI is not doing it, I'll kick it over. And then O1 doesn't just give me the solution like other models will. It'll just be like, oh, I have this bug. Can you fix it? And it'll be like, oh, here's the problem. And then it spits out to the solution. And then you just do it. O1 will go and step by step, not just tell you what the solution is, but it'll say, here's why it works. Like, here's why this is the right thing. And it gives you theory behind it. It gives you context surrounding the problem, and it does X, Y, and Z. So I think it's been really interesting watching that direction as they've been able to give models better and better reasoning capabilities to not just kind of lazily feed my idiocracy brain the answer, but also like help me understand the context around it and create a best understanding.
Yeah, the watching an AI model think, right, when it shows the visual representation of how it gets from one place to the other is amazing. So I'm a big fan of that. I think, and because then you can look at each step and be like, all right, this is why it went crazy. This is I don't want this part. Try it again without that part. Which I think is
That's
fantastic.
actually a very popular prompt engineering technique, which is like, oh, you're not getting the output you want. It's because you asked the model to just like solve this crazy math equation. But if you ask it, hey, show me your proof, then the model goes like step by step, and it's not just trying to make some like one zero shot prediction. It'll go step by step and reason its way to the correct answer.
Nice, 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 nice. Okay. So that being said, we're all using it to learn cool new things. My favorite one, kind of retouching on something I already knew how to do, but doing it better than I did originally, was doing one sheets for the business recently. We wanted to do a corporate version and a family version, and having it go through and like, hey, how do you write a one sheet? What's the best way to put this? Whatever. And then taking it to the website, feeding it the website information, and be like, all right, yeah, you write one compared to the one I wrote. All right, I did it right, kind of thing, or vice versa, right? I think that was something fun. That was on the business model side of things. For those of you that are watching this for business stuff, one pagers, they're great. Uh, but kind of jumping on to the next question here, we're gonna kind of move more into the positive side of things as we're getting close to the end here. Um, on a positive note, what is the one thing that you are most looking forward to as these new problems get solved? Right, as things get better, what are the things you're excited for it to get to a place? Right. Um, what are you looking forward to in the future when it comes to AI? Right. I'll give you a couple seconds to think here, and the first person that looks like they're ready, I'll call on.
I can
What do
just
you?
jump in.
Huh? Go ahead.
I said I can just jump in.
Yeah.
I'll volunteer. Um, uh, yeah, I think when models get to a place where they can reliably give you high quality output based on well, if they can give you, let me rephrase. When they can give you the desired high quality output consistently, that you don't always feel like you have to fact check them, that will be excellent. Of course, that's a bit of a catch-22 because if it goes off the rails at that point, but in this future idyllic state, which I do think we'll get to, that'll be fantastic. That's a lot less brain power that we need to spend on that and can then reallocate elsewhere, which I think will be truly excellent. And just to bring it back to like what Greg and I are trying to solve, like the whole point of this is to make the TTRPG experience easier and better and less tedious for those that are feeling some of it is a little bit tedious. And if we can solve that problem and continue to improve upon that, like that is going to be an excellent future state for us, because again, we are users first. We built the very first iteration of Archivist was for our own group. But then for everyone else, I think it'd be a nice value add to reallocate that time and energy and effort towards whatever the next hobby or interest may be.
Fantastic. Stacy, jumping over to you.
I agree with Wood. I mean, the same thing. And it sounds terrible to say this, but the better it gets and it can replace people, because my industry is very short on CPAs. People just aren't going to school for it, and everybody's retiring. So we are looking at a shortage of CPAs. So if it can get good enough to help replace some of that labor force, and we can get the work done and get good work out for clients and help them with their accounting, I think that would be amazing. But yeah, it's not to that point where, I mean, we've seen different things like QuickBooks. Intuit has a program where they have an AI based. It still needs to be fixed. It still needs to be cleaned up. It's not 100%. And I don't know how it could be, because you need someone who knows what the transaction was to put it in. But the closer we get, the happier I'll be, because it'll make my life easier.
Fantastic. And Greg.
I You wanted to end on a positive note.
Look, if it's
Well,
negative, let it go. I'm gonna end it on a positive note. I have my opinions, gosh dang it. But
well,
what can you wait for? What are you excited for? Whether it's good, bad, or ugly, what are you excited for?
Yeah, well, I mean, the challenge when talking about AI is that they're kind of they're kind of the same thing. It's like when you introduce any new technology, it's a tool, and so that tool can be leveraged. You know, it depends on who's wielding it for sure. But like as we get closer to AGI, there's so many possibilities with that. Like there's a startup in Silicon Valley right now called Physical Intelligence, and they're sort of taking a different approach to like what the autonomous vehicle industry did with like more classical perception techniques, and they're using multimodal large language models to create a general model for robotics. And so can you imagine like just taking a model, putting it into a robot? And like I got to go visit their site. I don't know, I hope I'm not giving away any secret sauce, but like, you walk into this random garage in the mission, and like they've got on one station, there's a human who's got, sort of joysticks, and they're controlling these sort of like robotic arms, and it's folding a t-shirt. It's trying to do something. And then on the station next to it, you're watching a model try and replicate that action, and it is wild. So like you can just think of like what that means, like all of the people working in the Amazon fulfillment centers, like who are just busting their humps trying to make a living, like that can just you can have a robot who's never tired and can interpret things and just do the job just fine. um and then same thing with like agentic workflows. Like there'll be a point where you can, talk to your smartphone and say, "Hey, I want to book a trip to Hawaii," and it just does everything for you. It knows all your preference and your personal data and whatever. And like all of that's great. But then you get to the other side of that, and you're like, "Well, great. What happens to all those Amazon fulfillment center workers?" And what happens as AI sort of has this creep and starts to become more and more powerful, more and more capable. And then eventually the entire population's out of a job. And you try to solve that problem. And it's like, well, I don't know, maybe we're producing so much prosperity that everybody can have a universal basic income and like everything's going to be great. And it's like, well, will it be great? Or because I know me personally, if I don't have a purpose or challenge or adversity and something to wake up to and go fight, then like I'll just be a lump on the couch and I'm miserable and I have an existential crisis. So I won't go down the rabbit hole too much, but there is a dichotomy on the things that I'm very excited for and terrified about.
Gotcha. You know what? I wish we had another hour to talk about that, because that is a great conversation that I would love to get into on that. Unfortunately, we don't have that kind of time. Kind of on your note, though, I am excited for the time when I can go to my phone and talk to it, and it be a friend, right? We'll use a video game example. I want a Cortana to be able to walk around and talk to me, right? I want something that'll be smart enough to understand what I want, and be able to help me and have an attitude, personality, something along those lines, where it's nearly indistinguishable from a person, right? When it gets to that point, I think it'll be very exciting, because it'll be a lot of new frontiers that I don't know if everyone's ready for. But when it gets there, it'll be exciting. Um, as you said, Greg, there's a lot of rabbit holes that it could go the wrong way real fast, right? The hope is that the things we make are smarter than us or stupider than us in the right way. Um, so, all that being said, we're gonna kind of go with last thoughts on the new age, same problems, and the solutions that AI presents for us. And then we'll give you guys your time to talk about your stuff one more time. Wahaha. So, starting with, we're going to start with Greg, since you ended it last time. Greg, what are your kind of last final thoughts on just in general, as we step into the new age and face the same problems? How will AI, figure out the simple stuff that it can?
Uh, Well, I mean, it's already on its way there to figuring out the simple stuff, right? Like they're running into things like, a data wall, and they're overcoming that by generating synthetic data and like doing all that stuff. Like it'll get to a place where, it can solve most of our problems. I think the I don't know, the perspective on it that I think would have found valuable, or at least prudent, is to think of AI in like a responsible way, which is like use it to aid and augment the human experience, not supplant it. And so I think yeah, leaning on AI to again, like replace that sort of human spark, or to try and be the source of creativity. I think first of all, I don't think it's ever going to get there. I don't think you can jump into any random TTRPG table and see the war crimes that their PCs are committing, and you just know that a model, no matter how wild you make the temperature and try to train it, it's just not going to be a human. So I think as long as we keep that in mind and we use it to improve, quality of life, and take away the stress and strife, and improve lives, then like it'll be great. I don't know. I guess that's where I'll stop my stream of consciousness.
Well, don't stop your stream of consciousness. Just cut it off for a second.
Yep.
What? What about you? What's your final thought?
Yeah, I'll take an optimistic view and kind of the practical day to day. I mean, I'm excited about the short to medium term implications, and I'll give maybe like a 1 to 5 year framework on that. I think all of us are, or I should say, many of us will likely have the opportunity to use AI to automate or significantly reduce the time of various tasks that we feel are tedious. So an example of that would be like meal planning and groceries. Like you could just be like, hey, it should have the context on you, your family, your dietary preferences. It should know maybe if you get a smart fridge or something, or somebody to figure out what's your inventory level of your home, can figure out a meal plan for you, probably gives you a chance to review and like, yes, yes, no, creates the shopping cart, does the shopping, sends it to a party to actually bring that and deliver it to your home. I think that will be fantastic. Again, I'm choosing the optimistic view on that. There's of course some weird, unsavory sides to that as well, but I think that's going to be things like that will be fantastic. That many people probably find grocery shopping a little bit tedious in general. Well, I'll leave it at that, like that, but I think you can have a similar framework and apply it to other day-to-day sort of chores and tasks that can be automated or greatly time reduced. That will be fantastic for quality of life for many.
100% am there with you. I mean, could you imagine telling our great grandparents that we don't ever have to actually go shopping anymore? Like we just push a button and food shows up. It'd blow their little minds. It'd be crazy. Jumping over to Stacy.
I think, and that's true, like, but that's history, right? If you go back in history with anything and you look at when do people put a reliance on something that then becomes too powerful and it becomes a problem, like look at Amazon and all the businesses that have been put out of business because Amazon got so powerful and we all rely on it and it's a problem and governments have done that. So with anything, I think we just need to make sure we keep that in check. How reliant are we on it? Make sure we maintain the knowledge for ourselves so we can still think and it doesn't become like Wall-E, where we're all just fat blobs and chairs doing nothing, and make sure that we're foreseeing any potential problems and putting up barriers and controls for those.
Fantastic final thoughts. So to kind of summarize what we've talked about, right? In the negative aspect, the biggest problem with both people and AI seems to be communication, right? Effectively communicating information both to the AI, from the AI, and amongst each other, right? Is where lots of people struggle when they get into this space. Is how to say things the right way to get what they want, right? On a positive note, it solves lots of problems. It helps us study. It does great things. It helps us do lots of stuff in short periods of time. There's a bit of a stigma in the TTRPG community that you guys know that using AI to help craft stuff is a big no, and I laugh at people that think about that because you know what? I don't always remember what the stats for a goblin are. Sometimes I just need to look it up without the book in my hand, right? So with that in mind, right, we also went into the things that we're all looking forward to, and we're super excited for what's coming forward. I think we can all agree that the four of us are ready for it in some form or fashion, or at least we think we are. But and that's all of that. I'm super excited to have you guys all here. And one more time with where people can find you if you want to be found. Wahaha! I'm looking at the Gregs here. They're still kind of incognito with their stuff. But we'll start with Stacy.
Yeah, I'm at cavincpa.com. I focus on businesses and helping them with their growing their profits, through fractional CFO work, growing the value of the business so they can have a big successful exit, tax strategies, and doing tax preparation. So that's what I do if you're looking for me.
I was gonna say tax season's here. You better get on
Yeah, it is.
get on the books. I've already done mine. I was first week done. Not playing that game with the business tax. I still gotta do the personal one. So waiting on universities to send things. Rabble. All right. We'll get to Greg, and then we'll finish with Wood.
Yeah, so you can find us at the same place. So it's rpgarchivist.io. And we say this all the time, I feel like, but we're just about to go into beta, and then we'll be much less private and quiet about everything because we'll feel much more confident about the quality and where things are. But we still have an active closed alpha, and if you are interested in giving it a shot, users are using it for free, like Rook. Thank you for your engagement. So you can go to the site and just sign up for the alpha. That'll send the note to us, and we can schedule some time and get you on the platform.
Fantastic. What? Any last thoughts for you in addition to that?
Yeah. I'll add just one slight thing on top of that. We have been doing on like live onboarding with folks who have been interested, but more recently, if that's not your thing, if you're listening and that's not your thing, and you want to check it out anyway, you can just reach out and we can send you an invite. We would certainly appreciate your feedback and to get in there, use it, break it. In general, our users have found it to be super helpful. But again, we are technically in alpha. It's still in development, still working through the kinks. But again, I know live meetings isn't for everyone. And so if you want to just get in there and give it a try, without that, you are more than welcome to. Just send us a note and we'd be happy to get you invited.
Fantastic. I love that. I'm super excited. When you guys say we can start spreading the word, I'm there. I'm rubbing my hands waiting because
all the first impressions YouTube videos.
Yes, something like that. I don't know. We don't make a lot of review videos yet, but you guys might be the first. But all that being said, if you guys are looking for cool, fun stuff on the website, code for this week, month, we are still in February, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's Heartbreak. Just straight up Heartbreak. No 907, no nothing. All caps. Get you 10% off at the website. If you were able to sit through all this, fantastic. Please feel free to hop on the website and get 10% off whatever you order. Other things, if you're in Fairbanks, we got Comic-Con tomorrow and Sunday. Come hang out with us. We're there causing havoc, selling dice, running games, all that goodness. And that's it. February's been a busy month. So we are at our wits' ends with things. But that's all I got for you guys. We're gonna finish with the song, and as usual, I let our guests vote on what song they want to listen to at the very end here. So I'm gonna need a number between 1 and 12 this week. Anyone can answer, and I will probably average it out.
I've got my dice right next to me, so I'm gonna roll.
I was like, "Where's my D12? Where did I put it?"
Right here, because we played last night, and I'm at the desk. Here we go. Got a 5.
5, okay. Greg.
Oh, I also volunteer one.
Everybody.
I will say 9.
9, okay. Stacy.
2.
2. All right. So,
5 it is.
now I got to do the math side of things. Oh, okay. You get one of my new ones that I've been super excited about. This is also in the Discord, but it'll be fun. Anyway, here we go. With Adventure Mind, have a wonderful time.
Some minds are sharp like blades of steel, while others turn like broken wheels. Your thoughts a maze with no escape, a puzzle lost, a twisted shape.
You hold a thought like hands hold mist. It slips away, it won't persist. If wisdom knocked upon your door, it turn and leave, then knock no more. A brain like yours is rare, it's true. They simply don't survive past youth. Oh, how you bumble, how you blunder, like roaring thunder, torn asunder. You walk the world, just sighs and stares, a storm of chaos lost unaware. Some shine like stars with flawless grace, and some leave footprints out of place. When mirrors weep and beg for peace, it's clear that beauty signed a lease, then left.
Here's a war with no one won, a tangled mess that fights the sun. Your fashion sense a guessing game, where every guess just ends in shame. A scarecrow bows before your style and walks away with more a smile. Oh, how you bumble, how you blunder, like roaring thunder, torn asunder. You walk the world, just sighs and stares, a storm of chaos lost unaware. Some rule the world with charm and wit, and some just talk, refusing quit. When presence drains the room of air, it's time to take your leave, or care.
You strut around crowned as if you're king, yet fools and jesters own the ring. A laugh too loud, a word too bold, a story told but twice as old. You soak in praise like desert sand, yet offer none with outstretched hand. Oh, how you bumble, how you blunder, like roaring thunder, torn asunder. You walk the world, just sighs and stares, a storm of chaos lost unaware. Some voices spark like fire bright, and some just drone like endless night. When speaking leads to yawns and pain, perhaps it's best to not explain. You speak, the world just turns away, each word a cloud that blots the day. A joke you tell falls flat and cold, a tale too long, a lie too bold. To hear you talk is such a chore, like endless waves upon the shore. With skill and hands so sure, while others trip on floors too pure. If failure built a monument, you'd be its proudest resident. You'd lose a fight against a door, you'd trip while standing on the floor. A task for you, a fate too grim, like throwing bricks and hope and swim. If blunders earned a gold award, then you, my friend, would lead the board. Oh, how you bumble, how you blunder, like roaring thunder. Lost unaware. Over the tale of one so grand, a legend built on feet of sand. A mind's place, a fate to skin.